The idea of a dedicated space military branch was once confined to science fiction, but by 2020, it became a concrete reality. The formal establishment of the U.S. Space Force, USSF, under President Donald Trump, signaled a shift in military doctrine. This was not a reactionary move, but the result of decades of growing dependency on space-based assets and increasing threats from global adversaries. The U.S. realized that space was no longer a benign environment. It was becoming a contested, congested, and competitive domain. But the roots go deeper. The genesis of the Space Force draws from Cold War satellite races, classified Pentagon initiatives, and an evolving understanding of space as the ultimate strategic frontier. The importance of orbital dominance in modern warfare. Space dominance is no longer optional, it's critical. From GPS-guided precision munitions to global surveillance and encrypted communications, the American military machine is entirely dependent on satellite networks. In a hypothetical conflict, knocking out GPS or reconnaissance satellites could blind and cripple American forces across the globe. This vulnerability has placed space at the center of modern military planning. The Space Force is tasked not just with deploying and maintaining these systems, but with ensuring their survivability and resilience in a wartime scenario. This includes redundancy networks, rapid satellite replacement strategies, and real-time threat monitoring in space. Beyond satellites, building a space-based warfighting architecture. The USSF isn't just about protecting satellites. It is actively designing a space-based warfighting architecture. This includes systems for early missile launch detection, secure data relays, anti-jamming capabilities, and potentially even offensive space weapons. Directed energy weapons, electromagnetic pulse (EMP) tools, and maneuverable inspector satellites capable of disabling enemy spacecraft are all reportedly in development. Projects like the X-37B reusable spaceplane are believed to serve as testbeds for such technologies. The objective is not just to defend American interests in orbit, but to deny adversaries access or freedom of action in space during a conflict. Intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance from orbit. The Space Force also plays a pivotal role in intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, and ISR operations. High-resolution imaging satellites, infrared sensors, and radar arrays allow the U.S. to monitor troop movements, missile deployments, and even subterranean facilities in near real time. This capability gives the U.S. a global surveillance net that is unmatched, yet increasingly contested. China and Russia are developing camouflage, decoy, and anti-imaging tactics to counter this orbital eye. The Space Force is working to counter these countermeasures by improving sensor fusion, artificial intelligence image analysis, and multispectral observation capabilities. Strategic rivals: China's Space Leap and Russia's Shadow programs. The Space Force was created not in a vacuum, but in response to mounting strategic challenges, chief among them China. Beijing has launched hundreds of satellites, developed ground-based ASAT missiles, and is building a global Beidou navigation system to rival GPS. Its military-civil fusion policy enables it to integrate commercial space advancements into its armed forces rapidly. Meanwhile, Russia has been testing satellite interceptor systems, deploying electronic warfare satellites, and experimenting with co-orbital threats, spacecraft that shadow others, potentially to sabotage or disable them. The U.S. Space Force must counter both nations across every orbital layer: low Earth orbit, LEO, medium Earth orbit, MEO, and geostationary orbit, GEO. Orbital warfare doctrines: the shift from passive to active defense. In earlier decades, space doctrine emphasized passive measures, shielding, maneuvering, and redundancy. Today, the doctrine is shifting toward active defense and even preemptive space strikes. The Space Force is embracing new rules of engagement, active satellite defense protocols, quick launch capabilities to replace destroyed assets, and AI-driven decision loops that can react faster than human operators. Space warfare is becoming faster, more automated, and more decisive. Future battles may involve swarms of small, armed satellites engaging in electronic warfare skirmishes in orbit. Far above public view, but with catastrophic effects below. The race for lunar and cislunar control beyond Earth orbit lies the next great strategic objective. The moon and the space between Earth and moon, known as cislunar space. Both the US and China are planning lunar bases within the next 2 decades. These bases are officially for research and exploration, but they also have military implications. Lunar installations could host communication arrays, surveillance platforms, or even missile warning radars with vast visibility. The US Space Force is already preparing strategies for lunar asset protection, orbital traffic management, and power projection in cislunar space. Control over these areas could determine dominance in future space conflicts. Economic warfare and space infrastructure protection. Space is no longer just a military domain, it's an economic one. Thousands of satellites enable global financial transactions, weather monitoring, agriculture planning, internet access, and international logistics. Disrupting even a small portion of this infrastructure could cause trillions in economic damage. The Space Force's mandate includes the protection of commercial satellites, undersea cable mapping via orbital systems, and the defense of space assets from non-state actors such as hackers or rogue states. The militarization of space is not just about defending against missiles, it's about safeguarding the arteries of the global economy. Integration with AI, quantum, and hypersonic systems. The Space Force is deeply tied to cutting-edge technologies that will define the next generation of warfare. Artificial intelligence helps manage complex satellite constellations and detect anomalies faster than any human could. Quantum sensors and communication systems could revolutionize secure space-based data transmission. Hypersonic missile systems, traveling at over Mach 5, will rely on space-based tracking to be effective. The USSF is not an isolated branch. It is a central node in a massive, integrated, tech-dominant defense ecosystem. The future of conflict, deterrence or provocation. While many argue that the Space Force is necessary to deter adversaries, others fear that its rapid militarization of space could spark a dangerous arms race. Space, once a symbol of global cooperation, is now a battlefield in waiting. The challenge for the US will be to maintain a strategic edge while avoiding miscalculations that could lead to conflict. Treaties like the Outer Space Treaty are outdated and vague, and no clear rules govern space warfare. The Space Force must navigate this legal and ethical gray zone carefully, ensuring preparedness without triggering escalation. Conclusion: a force for peace or for war. The United States Space Force is not merely preparing for a war in space. It is building the foundation for space to become a decisive domain of 21st century power. From protecting satellites to preparing for future lunar operations, the USSF is reshaping the nature of national defense. Whether this leads to a new era of deterrence and stability, or ignites a dangerous race towards space-based conflict, depends not only on the capabilities being developed, but on how and when they are used. In the void above Earth, the next chapter of human conflict may already be unfolding, silently and invisibly.